Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Let's get straight to our top story. Huge reaction to Bill's talking points last night on the situation in Ferguson. Take a listen to some of what Bill had to say.
In 2012, the last stats available from the FBI, there were about 12 million arrests in the USA. That averages out to 34,000 arrests per day. In 99.9% of those cases, the perpetrator was not killed by police. In fact, just over 400 fatal police shootings a year are recorded in this country, according to the FBI. So let me restate, 12 million arrests a year, 400 fatal shootings, many of them justified. And Al Sharpton has the nerve to insult the American police community, men and women risking their lives to protect us. This charlatan has the gall to do that, and NBC News is paying him. My God, why is that acceptable?
Clearly, someone needs a nap. Joining us now with reaction from Washington, Horace Cooper, co-chairman of the Project 21 National Advisory Board and a legal commentator. And also from D.C., Hilary Shelton, the NAACP Senior Vice President for Advocacy. Hilary, let me go to you first. What do you make of Bill's powerful memo last night? I hate to compliment him because he has a big head already, but you have to admit it was pretty strong.
Well, let me first say there is a problem in Ferguson, Missouri. There's a problem in many other places across the country when it comes to community police relations. So certainly lifting issues up and talking about those problems is the first step towards some solution, towards solving them. So he may disagree with Al Sharpton, but I think even Bill O'Reilly would agree that Al Sharpton has a right to say what's on his mind, as controversial as it might be. Certainly it's never stopped Bill, and we appreciate his comments as well. So I think it's important that we have this conversation.
Well, it's a fair point. He has a right to say what he wants, even if it's nonsense. Let me ask Horace. Horace, do you get the impression that when Al Sharpton comes to an area where there's crisis, that he might actually hurt it instead of help it because his reputation precedes him? He's got quite a past with Tawana Brawley, with Crown Heights, with Freddie's Fashion Mart. When he shows up, there's nothing but trouble.
Well, that's his game plan. And in fact, even if there isn't a crisis going on, he brings a can of fuel and pours it all around, and then the match, and lights it up, and then watches everyone else. If you're wanting to talk about what America is going to do so that America addresses how blacks, whites, and browns all get along, Al Sharpton isn't the man to do that. But if you want to talk about how it can be blown up, how it can be destroyed, how the problems and the can be exacerbated and the progress can be denied, he's the man to call.
Hilary, you know, I will admit there's a certain kind of ping pong that goes on in this sort of crisis. Whenever there's an incident like this, you get two sides. You get anger over the initial crime, and then you get others saying, what about black-on-black crime that takes place every day, and the media doesn't care about that. Do you think that's a fair response or a deflection against away from the primary problem?
Well, I think it's a deflection. Certainly we have issues in this case around policing. It's more of a blue versus black issue than a black-on-black issue or a white-on-white issue. Now, as we know, as we talk about the murder rate in America, we still know statistically that more crimes are committed by people of the same race against other people of the same race as they are. So those are issues that we have to address, and certainly the high homicide rate, particularly the gun-related homicide rate in this country, should be discussed. But in this case, we want to talk about the issue of police-community relations, because what we have is an 18-year-old teenager who was shot to death, of course, who was unarmed by a police officer in a very suspicious manner. We have a number of witnesses that have already come forward saying that this was done in a way that looks more like an execution than, quite frankly, him carrying out his responsibilities as a police officer. We have to have that conversation and really talk about what's going on around this as we talk about Ferguson, Missouri. They've got other problems of governance throughout Ferguson. As you know, this is an area that is 67% African American. But if you look at those who are elected into office, including the police chief and the police department itself, there are 53 police officers, only 3 are African American. There's a real issue with that balance and governance from every level in this area. And certainly it is legitimate for us to have this conversation about policing.
Horace, he brings up a good point that's been brought up a lot by the media, the disparity between the police force and the citizens in terms of color. What are the facts behind that? I mean, I've talked to police officers, and they will say they would love black applicants, but they can't find them.
Greg, this is entirely an effort at a deflection. If the Justice Department and the NAACP and the other agitators were concerned, they can go and look at the racial makeup of communities all across the country and ask to have meetings with those organizations to come up with some solutions. What they have done instead is try to exploit this situation. And the governor of the state has joined in along with a number of other people. When you race to judgment and prejudge this before we know all of the facts, it reminds me of something. The first and most important civil right is the right not to have the government charge you, indict you, incarcerate you, penalize you without the right process, the right investigation. The rush to justice is the kind of thing I would have hoped the NAACP and Al Sharpton would have issued an announcement immediately when those people were making these rush to judgment type statements, including the governor of Missouri. Their silence tells you all you need to know about their real concern about fundamental civil rights.
Hilary makes a good point. A lot of people talking without any facts on every side. But could you say, to be fair, that maybe everyone is right? There's a problematic relationship between the community and police and an issue within the community itself that leads to trouble. Why can't it be both?
Well, let's solve those problems. Quite frankly, that measurement has to be there. And I'm laying out statistics, facts, and whatnot. When we talk about a police department, I'm talking about the number of police officers that are reflective of the community they're serving. We're talking about politicians, those who are elected to make decisions on behalf of those communities. Again, we're talking about that lack of representation. As we talk about this issue, for some reason, it has led to a very deadly consequence. African-American young people are losing their lives unnecessarily at the hands of police officers. We've got to talk about the real value involved when we utilize guns to actually gun down unarmed citizens that are suspect in some of these cases.
All right. I don't know if there were other incidences where in Ferguson police officers gunned down unarmed black citizens, but I'll look for the stats.
In fact,
please,
this is the point that I'm making. There is no such thing. Greg, there is no such thing
there are four
as this
open
idea.
cases in which the Justice Department is investigating the Ferguson Police Department right now for issues like racial profiling.
Wait. Let's get this clear. There is no such thing as the idea that every community in America, a free and open society, is supposed to have an equal number of black teachers, an equal number of white police officers or brown police
every
officers.
Expert
That
will tell you
is
that
a
it needs to be
social engineering
reflective of the
outcome
people
that
you're
has
serving.
nothing
And that is
to
not the
do
case here.
with equality and civil rights.
All
That's
right.
part of the problem.
I got to wrap this thing up
Talk to
because
some
we
of
got to
these other
roll.
police
All right.
organizations,
Thank
you'll
you,
see.
Mr. Cooper, Mr. Shelton. Next on the rundown.